This one looks kind of complicated, and I think it helps to have a really good, solid foundation of grammar so that you know which punctuation rules to apply and why the right answer is right. But I also think that a lot of people are going to get this one right kind of just by feeling it out. So the one thing that I noticed just kind of looking at the choices and trying to predict what they're asking about is we've got some semicolons, periods, and then the original sentence has a comma. So when we're making those kinds of switches, commas versus semicolons versus periods, we are really thinking about run-on sentences. We've got to be careful because we use periods and semicolons to separate two complete sentences. Commas cannot do that by themselves. So we should really make sure, like, what's going on here? Do we have two sentences or do we have one? So let's read it. Let's see how it sounds. She found that students who were required to volunteer rushed to complete their service hours in early high school. They then did significantly less regular volunteer work in the 12th grade. So there's a clear break right here. There's one idea that ends with high school, and then we kind of start a new idea. It's a continuation, but it's grammatically new. It's a sentence that could stand on its own, right? Just read the second part out loud by itself, and you can see it doesn't feel like it's missing anything, right? They then did significantly less regular volunteer work in the 12th grade. That sounds like a normal sentence. So that means that A is wrong because using a comma there would be a run-on. It's joining two independent clauses to complete sentences together with only a comma. You're not allowed to do that, and so that's what makes this wrong. Now, as far as a semicolon versus a period, this is a distraction. That doesn't matter. A semicolon and a period are the same thing. We saw that in another question earlier in this section. They don't really mean anything different on the SAT. They both require a sentence before and a sentence after the semicolon or the period. So that part doesn't matter. What really does matter then are these commas here, right? Do we need a comma after then? Do we need a comma after they? Do we need no commas? And this is where maybe just kind of trust your instincts and remember that a comma is also kind of like a pause. So structurally, a comma helps us pause when we're moving between different types of things in a sentence, right? When we're interrupting the sentence or adding in a new clause or a new idea in the middle. If we're not shifting ideas, then we don't need a pause. We don't need a comma to show the shift. In this case, we're kind of just like diving right in and continuing with the thought. They then did significant less regular volunteer work. That's the idea. So we don't need any commas. D is the best answer here. If that's weird, I guess I really wouldn't worry about this question. Like, I think this is a kind of strange question. They don't usually test commas this way, so I wouldn't stress over it. But the things to take away are the way that semicolons and periods behave, that they're basically the same thing. And that there's no real introduction to this sentence, which starts with they then, right? It's just kind of like the sentence. There's no piece of this that we could cut away. And that's kind of what we would expect if we were using a comma at the beginning of a sentence, that introductory part could be eliminated. But if we did that, we'd lose something important, right? It would just start with, did significantly less regular volunteer work in the 12th grade. Well, who did that, right? We need the who. We need the they. And so we don't want to use a comma to kind of break it apart. And that's what makes D the best. If you're just listening for the pauses, I think you're going to get to that same answer. So that's why I would say for this question, it's okay to trust your instincts.